Satellites?
A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth. Yeah, so we were talking about the OS naming. We're on macOS 28. It jumped from 15 dot something to 28. And we were just saying the naming. So they had the cats. What else did they have? They had the cats. And then...
lion, tiger.
Yeah. Snow leopard.
Snow leopard. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. What was after the cat? I feel like there was something after the cats before. Like then the
Catalina?
latest said...
There was like it was a California Places.
California Places, but now it's like California, like parks and natural features of California, because they had like Sierra or High Sierra, right? Was that Sierra?
Yeah, that's right. High Sierra.
Now they have Tahoe. They had Sequoia. So they had like, did they have Yosemite?
Yes, there was Yosemite.
They did. Okay, yeah. So
they've
been doing like natural features and places of California. Before that, they did like towns and geographic kind of, like Catalina, because that's an island. Catalina, or was that part of the natural thing?
That might have been part of the natural thing. One thing I remember about Catalina that I loved was, you know how they introduced those big backgrounds that were sort of animated? Like as the sun went down, it would slowly go down on your background, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember watching this show about the behind the scenes of the team that they had to hike right out to that point, and then they had to fly the drone, but they had to like fly it so that they could seamlessly merge like the night shot with the day shot. You know, like it had to be like maybe 4 times, and it was really hard to get to that point. But anyway, have you ever been to Catalina Island? I have not.
I think I have. Yeah, it's off of San Diego, right? Is it? No.
I think it's off of L.A. Isn't it off of Orange County?
Off of L.A. Okay. Yeah, I think I've been there. What's the island off of San Diego? Or maybe I'm thinking of...
The one off of San Diego is right there in the harbor, and there's an army base. I forget the name. That one.
It's like barely off. I mean, effectively, it's part of the city. It's like Alameda to Oakland, that island. Yeah. So anyway, it's like, interesting. With an island, so when you use, which preposition do you use when you talk about, when I go to Alameda, which it's technically an island, but I'll say when I first moved to the Bay Area, I lived on Alameda. And and I'll tell people, I'll say that to people, I lived on Alameda, and they'll be like, on Alameda? I'm like, yeah, it's an island. Oh yeah. Like, they think in Alameda, it's a town, right? Like, but like I do the same thing with Hawaiian Islands too. Like when I go, we were on Maui, not we were in Maui.
No, I for sure would say on Maui, but I definitely would say I'm going to take the car into Manhattan this afternoon.
Yeah,
but that's not.
You wouldn't say on Manhattan, yeah.
But it is an island, Manhattan Island. You would say like. And
Alameda is like no more of an island than Manhattan, but for some reason I use on.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know why. Yeah. So okay, here's a quick thing. My coffee this morning, right? So it occurred to me this is kind of a test of what kind of house you grew up in. All right, so I wanted to put a little cream in my coffee, and I ran out of half and half. But I thought, I might have some heavy cream somewhere. I'll mix that with a little like oat milk or something. And so I dug around, and there was a heavy cream in the back of the top shelf of the fridge, unopened. And I looked at the date, and I thought, it's unopened. It was from February. Like the sell-by date was February. So that's a while ago.
It's a while ago.
Right? So we're in September. No, we're in October now. Right? So like, this is the kind of house I grew up in. My reaction to that was, it's probably fine. It's never been opened. Right? Like, I'll smell it. If it doesn't smell weird, because it's heavy cream. Like heavy cream lasts a long time. Yeah, if it was milk, I wouldn't even consider it.
It's basically liquid butter, right? Isn't that what you make?
So I was like, it's probably fine. And so I smelled it. It smelled fine, and that's what is in my coffee. But I was thinking, like, there are lots of people in this world and in my life who would look at that date and immediately chuck it in the trash.
Right. Yeah, it's true. No,
So, like, where are you on that spectrum of like, specifically, we're talking about heavy cream, like, not, I wouldn't do that necessarily with anything.
I would definitely open it and smell it, and I might even put a little bit into a glass and take a tiny sip. And if it's sour, I would chuck it. But since it's butter, like if you had a pound of butter in the fridge, you wouldn't even think about it, right?
You wouldn't even look at the date.
Yeah, and so
like you wouldn't even go, I wonder how long I've had this butter.
Yeah,
but with cream, I looked at the date. You're right. With butter, that would be with butter, I honestly, I don't think I'd even look.
Right. I don't think I've ever looked at the date on butter.
No, I don't think so.
Isn't heavy cream, that's the only ingredient?
I mean, it's just fat,
butter.
Right? It's butter, right? You just churn cream into butter. Yeah.
So it's basically, it's pre-butter.
So you're right. You're roughly on the same part of the spectrum as me for the cream.
Yeah. No, I think so.
It's like a poor family thing. I grew up, we always did the smell test with stuff. If there was mold on the cheese, my mom cut it off,
Yeah. Well, mold on cheese you can definitely cut off. You're not supposed to eat bread.
You're not supposed to do that with soft cheese.
Or bread.
Or bread. Definitely bread.
Because bread, it can be further along than you can.
And it's a different species of mold, I think, on bread.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Does mold have species? It does, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what antibiotics are. They're fungi that have evolved to kill bacteria.
Yeah, because there's there's animal, vegetable, vegetable, mineral.
Yeah.
The kingdoms, you have the organisms, you have animals, you have plants, and then you have there is a fungi third category, right? It's like fungi and
insects, fungi.
No, insects are in animal.
Oh, they are an animal. Okay.
Yeah, but there's like a fungi. There's another cat. I forget what it's called. I think it starts with an L. All right, we'll have to put that in the show notes for the kids out there listening, or maybe somebody can call in and correct us. Wouldn't it be funny if we had call in?
That would be great.
So anyway, you're roughly on the same place on the spectrum as me with the sell by date for heavy cream.
Yeah, and this might have been one of my favorite things to do. I have a friend of my wife's who doesn't she won't eat leftovers. She just, if it's leftovers from the night before, she just throws them away. And my thing is, I like to take sort of like that, wedding thing, like something old, something new, something blue. And I like to take like a new thing, like mushrooms and some onions, and make a stir fry using the leftovers to sort of reboot them.
Oh man, 100%. Like I don't reheat leftovers. I reboot them.
Rebooting the leftovers is it's almost like an art form in and of itself.
Yeah, my wife is always impressed with what I can do, because I almost never reheat. I like if it's a hamburger or something, I'll deconstruct it.
Nice.
If I want to remake it as a hamburger, I will deconstruct it. I'll put it on new bread. I'll refresh parts of it. I'll reheat the patty in the microwave, but I'll toast bread. You know what I mean? Even if I'm gonna ultimately end up with something that resembles the original, which is not always, often not the case. Like I'll make it into a stir fry or something too.
Yeah.
But I will still deconstruct it and rehab. So there's rehabbing. That's rehabbing the leftover back into something that is resembling the original in taste and structure and texture. Mm-hmm. And then there's rebooting, which is like what you've done with when you make it into a stir fry. You completely change the end format of it. Yeah.
And it depends, if you add enough fresh ingredients, you can almost mask the fact that it was leftovers at all. Like it's sometimes, there's really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah. So where I stand on that, like I'm pretty lax about, like if something is in the fridge, I think here's a question for you. I sometimes will go and we're in a rush, like I'll go to Safeway or something and I'll buy one of those roast chickens that comes in like a bag.
Okay.
Like they roast it, right? Costco has them.
The rotisserie chickens.
Yeah, the rotisserie chickens. So I don't want to just like come home and
they used to come in a plastic container. Now lately they changed them all everywhere to a bag. Yeah,
it's a bag. Yeah. But so you bring it home. So what's your take on, like, I know that there's this rule that like food should be above 140 or below 40 so that bacteria won't grow. But how do you, like, I don't want to throw it in the fridge when it's hot. So like I let it sit on the counter for like 2 hours.
Totally, till room temperature.
You do? Okay. And then I put it in. Yeah. So is there anything wrong with that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think like, I think there are like food safety, hardcore food safety people, you know, who would say that you shouldn't do that. So here's an example of where I violate food safety all the time, like what the food safety, because food safety people would tell you, yeah, you shouldn't do that or whatever, right?
What would they do? Would they put it right in the fridge?
I think so. That's a good question. I think they would just say you should eat it, right? I don't know. That's a good question with the rotisserie chicken.
Like if you bring it home at 3:30 and dinner's not till 6.
No, 100%. So I leave it out. I don't put hot stuff in the fridge. I'll leave it out.
Yeah.
So rice, we cook rice a lot in this house, right? And in a rice cooker. And if you put rice in the fridge, it becomes like super dry. Yeah. No matter how you seal it, there's something. I was reading about it because I was like, "What is the deal?" Because you can like vacuum seal it, and it's still it's not like air is getting to it and drying it out. Like where it has all this built-in moisture, and if you vacuum seal it 100%, remove all the air, it still gets dry. So like it's obviously not being exposed to air and drying out. And where's the moisture go?
I don't know.
Apparently, there's some chemical thing that happens with rice at cold temperatures where it just becomes dry. So anyway, I'll have to look into the, because I read about it at one point because I was curious. But anyway, so I leave it out in the rice cooker, just on the counter, and it will sit there for sometimes 3 days. Now, if our house doesn't go over 70 degrees, which is, you know, like this time of year, it's rare that our interior temperature would be over 70. I just like, if we eat it within 3 days, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm the same about.
Like I'll throw it out after 3 days we'll just keep eating it out of the rice cooker and reheating it in the microwave or whatever. Yeah.
One thing that I remember reading, and it was maybe 6-8 months ago, but my dad is diabetic. Mm-hmm. He suffers from type 2. Mm-hmm. And if he goes to the Indian restaurant and has like a little bit of white rice, like his sugar just spikes through the roof. We have to walk around the block.
Yeah.
But my mom and I were reading that if you put the rice in the fridge, it lowers the glycemic index of the rice for the next few days. Like it actually is a lot more fiber or something. It doesn't go to your blood as quickly. And I don't know. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, there's some weird trick with rice. And is it the fridge? I don't know. But yeah, maybe it's the fridge. But I've heard there is some weird hack with rice where you do something super simple like that and it lowers the glycemic index. When my wife was pregnant, she had like gestational diabetes, right? And and her family, you know, a lot of her family members have type 2 diabetes. So they have all the different tricks for what to eat and how to eat and how to keep, you know, when to eat more sugar, whatever, right? And they have their meds that they take. But her doctor said if you are craving sweets, like have your sugar with fat. Like instead of eating something like white rice or that's not a sweet, but instead of eating like candy, say, have like Haagen-Dazs ice cream, super high fat, and because the fat, your body metabolizes fat so much more slowly than the sugar that it just like the sugar will enter your bloodstream much at a sort of a regulated pace because it's being regulated by the fat in the ice cream. So her, you know, she was like, sweet, I'll eat Haagen-Dazs. Yeah.
As long as it's got fat. The other thing that you can control your blood sugar with is fiber. So my daughter had one of those continuous glucose monitors. She's pregnant. Yeah. And so she was experimenting with, she would have her salad before and then like the rice and or chips or something, or she'd just do it in the wrong order. And she didn't spike if she had the fibrous thing first. Mm. So soluble fiber, which one of the highest soluble fiber things is radishes. It's like the highest one. Yeah. And
soluble I'm all about my Metamucil. It's because I told my doctor, I was like, I do a pretty good job of putting fiber in my diet with, you know, veggies and stuff. Didn't know about radishes. But he said, well, you know, consider a fiber supplement. So I started buying Metamucil, and It's a game changer, man.
Nice, man. I should try that. I'd take Benefibre or
It's probably the same.
Benefibre. It's like a white powder. It's like a very...
Is it psyllium husk, whatever?
I don't think it is. I think it's something else. It totally disappears in the water. And you almost think like you're not taking anything, so...
Got it. Yeah, I had something like that in Japan because I just could not poop in Japan. And it was kind of brutal. So I put dietary fiber in my little Google Translate app, and I went to a little drugstore, and they pointed me to this thing, and it was like as much fiber as a whole cabbage. But when I mixed it into my my water, like it didn't have any, like Metamucil will start to thicken up in the water.
Oh, okay.
The psyllium, right? It soaks the water and it starts to thicken. This doesn't have any. Like it didn't do anything to the water. It was like there was nothing in it. It was like I was sort of. It seemed mysterious how it could possibly be fiber at all that I was ingesting, because there was nothing fibrous about it or substantial about it, and it didn't do anything. It didn't help me at all.
Really?
It didn't do what Metamucil does anyway, which is definitely unmistakable.
The other thing
I won't go into graphic detail, but
the other thing
it's unmistakable. I'll just leave it at that.
I've been there. The other thing that works really well is magnesium. That supplement. It's called Calm.
Yeah, but that's different. I like both in tandem.
I think
when you really need help, both they complement each other nicely. But one does. But I do take a different magnesium supplement. So if I don't do my fiber, that does things that are sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. But the fiber helps regulate some of the effects of the magnesium.
Yeah, so, I always think of the fiber as being like, literally like, like imagine like some wool or some, like little hair, something that.
That's what. Yeah.
But
exactly, it's adding bulk.
But the soluble
and
fiber
structure.
that's really good for your small intestine is actually more like turns into like a gel on the surface of the small intestine, and it feeds the bacteria there, and like they makes them happy. So I always thought it was about scraping things, like, but it's not as much as you would think. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, because Noel Rhodes in one of his early things. Remember the fiber?
The radio show. All ads all the time. AM, something AM radio.
All ads all the time. They had a fiber supplement ad on there. And he talked about it in graphic detail, about the bulk.
Yeah, that's right. Bulking agents.
It would add bulking agent for your poop.
Because if your output is too small and disappointing, then you
add the bulking agent.
There's even for dogs. Bulking agents for dogs.
He talks about in vivid detail about the results and how his poops became much larger and ropier. I remember he used the word ropier. I was like, oh my god. That's too much. I can't unsee that now.
I feel like a lot of Noel Rhodes' comedy output just kind of flies under the radar, and he doesn't push it into like...
Not at all. It's so good, though.
It's so good. Like all of the ads... Have you seen those videos where they're selling the Flex Trek 3000? Like
Even that's like 20 years old now. I mean, he hasn't done much in a while, I don't think. I mean, a little bit here and there.
He did an ad. My former brother-in-law gave me and I can put it in the show notes too. But it's basically like a reggae song where he's wearing this big, huge beard.
I've seen him do that character a bit. I think we put one of those in the show notes a few episodes back.
This one is called "You Had One Job."
Yeah, we did.
We did. Okay, forgot about it. Yeah, one job, and I said he's speaking to Merrick Garland, like he's literally speaking to Merrick Garland. He's like, "Hey, Merrick, you had one job."
I hate that I was thinking today about how I resent the fact that I feel like reality right now gives us two choices. You can either expose yourself to the world and the news and current events to some extent, and you're just like, it's just the shit stain on the world that is Donald Trump and all of his minions and acolytes just laying waste to everything good about the world right now. It's just like one thing after another, and it's exhausting. or you can just hunker down and ignore all of it. Like it feels like there's no middle ground. Like if you want to be engaged in the world, then you're exposing yourself to that. You can't be, it's hard to be engaged in the world without, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally
So it's like
do.
the other choice is like, I'm just gonna turn off all my media, I'm gonna read fiction only, and I'm gonna watch, lightweight television, escapist stuff, and just escape. Or, I can be engaged in the world, but there's no like being engaged in the world. That's not really true, but it feels that way.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. Like I just got back from, from Canada. We talked about that last week, and I was, at a lake in the woods for 5 days, for 7 days.
Yeah.
And I didn't really look at my phone, and I felt I was reporting last time that I felt like much more creative, more at peace, kind of more. And I guess being back, like I have, I often get what I call a post-show low. Like if you've done something. Yeah, I expended like a lot of energy to make a play, for instance, to put it on.
Post-performance depression. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a real thing that a lot of people experience, like after a big production. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big project.
And so, to me, it almost feels like, going on a trip like that and interacting socially with everyone. And you come back and all of that is a memory. And you get this a little bit, especially like here in Tucson, it's very hot again. It's like it's going to be 100 today.
Yeah.
And it's October, and this is the time of year I get really sort of pissed. Like I just get pissed that it's hot, and I'm like, come on, man.
You get pissed, you get a little depressed, because then you start thinking about why it's so hot.
Right, exactly.
Right? Yeah. And then you're like thinking about your grandkids and the world they're going to inherit, and then you're like not only pissed, but you're like you're kind of like down this depression spiral about it too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so I guess my thing is that I'm in that sort of post-trip low where I'm having to kind of just figure out where I am. And you're right, like I happened to watch, the speech in front of the generals.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And
anyway,
part of me. So part of me, how for years, is it 10 years that we've been like dealing with this idiot?
Yeah.
So for 10 years, like it's clearly that there is a decline, a cognitive decline. Things have changed, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
And this hour and 11-minute speech.
Yeah.
Like one thing I actually thought that he did.
It could
really
have been like an email video.
Totally.
Right.
But one thing he did really well, because I'm gonna acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I would watch him look, and he would read. You can tell when he's reading because he has this monotone voice, and Stephen Miller's words and not his.
Yeah.
He's like the rapists in Portland and on the streets. He just like writes his own stuff. And then he turns and he likes to make comments about what he just read, And he'll be like, the rapists, they're off. The rapists are off. And he goes on this 4 to 5 minute.
Then he goes on this extemporaneous kind of ramble for a bit. Yeah.
What he did really well is he slid back and forth between the reading and like he wouldn't be like, I need to get back to my
speech. He's good in front of a crowd for sure. I mean, his fuel is attention, right?
Yeah.
So,
and these guys sat there stone-faced. They didn't
stone-faced.
That freaked him out, I think, a little bit.
It did. I heard the part where he was talking about I've never walked into a room that was so silent before, right? Like
and then he goes, you can clap if you want to. You can even get up and leave, but then you're going to get fired. You'll lose your rank.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was thinking about like I was in the lead up to this convocation of all those generals from around the world. Is that the right word? Anyway, I was feeling pretty trepidatious about what it might mean, like and I still so I'll go in kind of order of my thoughts. So I was feeling a little bit freaked out. Like, is it gonna be a purge? Is it gonna be a leadership purge? Is he gonna fire a bunch of these guys that are non-loyalists? Are we going, because these are the scary things that authoritarian regimes start to do with the military, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, so there was if they are in a very superficial way studying the Third Reich and like the success that Hitler had getting loyalty from his generals, like that's kind of what he did. He kind of gathered everybody, he gave big speeches, and then he fired a bunch of people that weren't loyal, and then he was left with loyalists, right? And that was, in a very superficial kind of version.
Night of the Long Knives, he just murdered a whole bunch of people at the hotel, remember?
Yeah.
So
but not generals, right?
I don't know actually who those people were. They might have been business leaders. They were business leaders.
Yeah. And Putin kind of did that with the oligarchs in Russia. Is kind of how he got all those guys to be behind him. But anyway, so I was like, a little nervous about what might happen when all these guys are together. What kind of changes are going to be rolled out? Dramatic, because it's a very dramatic thing to gather all these guys in one place, to summon them all, right? And then what ensued, publicly anyway, is the dumbest, most performative. Like, imagine being a general. Like, when you think about what it takes to become a general.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of schooling that those guys had, the amount of experience on and off battlefields that those guys have had, the amount of leadership experience those guys have had, giving similar talks to their own, subordinates and stuff, right? Trying to pump them up or whatever. And going in there and having Pete fucking Hegseth give you like this like pep talk about like manhood and being fat and like imagine sitting there for that with this like dumbass Fox host that made it to captain, never saw a minute of combat, right? Like that's the guy you're forced to listen to. And then Trump, Bone Spurs, up there.
Yeah.
Right after the fat speech, fat guy gets up there.
Well, it's really
And imagine being subjected to that as a general, and just like the level of arrogance that it takes to be Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump in that situation, lecturing these guys. It's superhuman arrogance that was on display. And so I like in the end I was like, I wasn't worried. Like if anything, they lost like respect of the entire. They probably, if there were guys in there that were really MAGA dudes, even those guys I think would have walked away going, I don't know, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I felt better after I saw what they seemed to be there for. But then there was a part of me that was like, maybe there's a whole other backroom set of stuff that happened that is scary. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we come back again and again to this idea I call it the 3 days of the condor. And I think what I would do, and I would do it faster.
Yeah.
And it's not happening as deeply and brutally and quickly as I could imagine, Mm-hmm. So, and also like, remember when we were all afraid of that DeSantis was Harvard Trump? Mm-hmm. But then he was like a robot and had zero charisma.
Yeah, we thought Steve Bannon was going to be like Darth Vader, right? Like Steve Bannon was going to be this like evil genius kind of, right? That was going to be making these like super genius evil chess moves when in the first term, right? Yeah. And then he got in a fight with Trump. Was going to be this puppet for Steve Bannon, who was somehow this evil genius. Yeah.
And then didn't he get in a fight with Jared Kushner and got fired like right away?
Yeah, just like dumb shit. Like just yeah.
But
it's such lightweight, dumb. That's why we say like we have stupid Hitler.
We're stupid.
Now, stupid Hitler isn't that much of it's a cold comfort that.
Yeah. No. It's
but anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I did read a New York Times article last week that said we keep liberals or leftists keep saying, oh no, we're headed into recreating the Third Reich. He goes, yeah, actually it's McCarthyism. It's actually it's going to be more like McCarthyism.
Yeah, but with real power, like they've managed to be McCarthyism, but like McCarthy was a marginal guy that managed to cause a big fervor for a brief time, but didn't really end up with that much power.
That's true, yeah. Like he could blacklist and I don't know.
But so you were going to say about 3 days of the Condor. Let's go back to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you're right. So like I can imagine like as you said, what's happening in the back room. Like what's that idiot Kash Patel was giving people in the FBI lie detector tests, which, just to be clear, like the reason they're not admissible in court is that psychopaths and sociopaths can foil them.
Yeah.
just mechanically the way their brains work.
Right.
So like they don't really work that well, but they scare people because then you ask them questions like, did you vote for Donald Trump? Do you love Donald Trump, dear leader? And so you imagine I could be fired for failing the lie detector test, even if it's stupid. But you wonder in the background, like, remember when MBS gathered all of his cousins and uncles together and then like locked them in a hotel? And then he was like, went room to room and was like, give me $17 billion. Give me 17, like, and they had to like cough up the money. That's kind of like what you could do. You could imagine that it could get way worse.
Or there would be like, if there was a significant, like if he was assured of the idea that there was out of those 800 generals, a significant number of them were like deep loyalists to the Trump, MAGA, whatever mission, mandate, program, whatever you want to call it. I think we'd have much scarier things happening in terms of like, because those guys would potentially have a lot of, like, you could get rid of the non-loyalists.
Right.
But the fact that he's not like doing these mass firings kind of tells me that, because I think there's no reason he wouldn't, if he could do it safely, if he could safely like sort of separate the loyalists from the non-loyalists amongst the generals and the next levels of military leadership, I think we would see mass firings. And I think even Pete Hegseth was sort of like floating this idea that like, if you're not on board, then you can just do the honorable thing and resign, right? Like, I think they would love to see the non-loyalists just weed themselves out.
Yeah.
And then we would have truly scary times when you have a military that's made up of loyalists. But the fact that they can't do that, obviously, they don't know quite who they can fire and who they, you know what I mean? Because we have a pretty non-political military, thank goodness, and as by design,
right?
Especially at that level. So yeah, I sort of feel like, these guys are, if I could put myself in their heads, I feel like what they would be thinking is, these guys are clowns. They're going to be gone at some point. I will still be here as a general.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm just going to sit here silently, stone-faced, and just endure this bullshit for, the few years that I have to endure this bullshit, and then they will be gone.
Right. And a lot of like what Pete Hegseth talks about, like lethality. I was listening to a retired general say, for every, Navy SEAL that's, crouching and walking into a building in some far off place, there's like 7,000 people that are creating the infrastructure and the logistical chain to like back that person up and make it happen. Right?
Yeah.
And like that is so complex. Like when, like in the first term when Trump tried to fire trans people, and the generals were like, these are experts that took like years, like they can read radar and they know how to, fix things. And like, you don't just fire people for some obscure reason who really knows how to do their job and would be very hard to replace.
Yeah.
I don't think Pete Hegseth has a clue how complicated the U.S. military is. It's the biggest organization in the world. It has the largest. No,
he doesn't have a clue. And so that's the arrogance. The arrogance of like blazing forward into things without having a clue. But I also think I think to the extent that he does have a clue, he doesn't care. You know what I mean? Because he cares about the optics. He cares about the optics with the MAGA people, right? His MAGA audience. He's ultimately a TV show host, right?
Yeah, totally.
So if he does those things and there is damage, and he's totally fully aware of the damage he's actually responsible for, I think there's the clueless part where he doesn't know how much damage he's responsible for. But even to the extent that he does know, he doesn't care because he's gaining what he wants. He's getting what he wants out of that anyway. Like the damage doesn't impact him. He actually profits from the damage. You know what I mean?
Someone pointed out, maybe on Pod Save America, they pointed out that they're like, that looked to me like he wants to run for office someday. And he probably would be like senator from wherever he's from, St. Louis. Where is he from?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know where he's from, but in California, I think, isn't he? Anyway,
Oh yeah, maybe.
I don't. I disagree. I think he is. You know, he wants an audience. He wants to be a Joe Rogan, right? He would love to have a huge audience for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
On podcasts, on TV shows, on whatever.
He'd fill stadiums and go around and just like do
yeah,
that.
like he liked being. I think he liked being on Fox, but he'd like to be a bigger guy on Fox than he was.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
He was a weekend guy. Isn't the weekend guy the B team?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably. Or maybe he was just. I don't watch Fox enough. Maybe he was just like a segment guy. Like they would pull him in for. I don't know. Did he have his own show?
I think it was like Fox and Friends, like with several people. But it was the weekend show, which, I mean, Monday to that's the B team.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Right. And like Kash Patel was a podcaster, right? Like these guys, what they are doing is they're still podcasting. They're still hosting a show. That's what they're still doing right now. Yeah. I don't think they have any more grand aspirations for public service of any kind or being in office. I don't think they like being in office. They like the power. But like you don't have much power as a senator, right? Like he has power as secretary.
Yeah, that's true.
And head of the FBI. I mean, I think this is to the extent that they want power, they're getting that. They're getting as much as they're ever going to get, and they probably know that on some level, right? So then but they're behaving like they're still hosts of podcasts and TV shows. That's how they are operating in their current jobs.
There's one moment where T says, "There's 2 N-words that you're not allowed to say."
Yeah. Like what? Imagine being a black general in the audience for that, right? Like there's just no, like.
And then he goes later on. He goes, and then there's we have 2 nuclear submarines off the coast of Russia in the Bering Sea. Oh, I'm not supposed to say we have 1. I'm not supposed to say we have 2. And you're just like, what the fuck? Yeah. Can you imagine being like the sub commander? Like, you're just like, dude, it's meant to be classified so that they don't know where
it's exhausting. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like you're either kind of in that world. You can't help being exposed to that if you go online at all, right? If you engage with the digital world at all, the media world at all, you have to be exposed to the shit stain of this Trump dude, right? And
so I have a question. Do you think that at this point, that there is a segment of the population, whether it's like 18%, who watches that sitting on the edge of their couch seat and it's just like, oh my God, what an amazing guy. Like we're so lucky to have him. Like, is there a group that loves him every word he says still?
So I wonder the same thing. And I guess I can't, it's so hard to imagine looking at that and thinking it was amazing, right? So what I think is really happening amongst the MAGA faithful who really love this shit is they see a very curated version of what is happening. So they don't watch the full,
right?
The full speeches, right? Although, I mean, I don't know though, because like the people who show up to his rallies, if you listen to the entire rally speech, any one of them, like I haven't listened to many, but I've listened to enough, a few, and they're fucking unhinged and just stupid. It's just like a stream of lies and just dumb shit and weird tangents that go nowhere. That like, it's the same stuff in front of the rally audience. And people like his rally fans love it, right? They show up to they follow him from rally to rally. So there certainly is a segment of people that that consume all of it in its rawest form and love it. No matter how stupid and dishonest and cruel and unhinged and demented, like in a dementia sense, it is, right? Like he's off the rails, and there are people that love it. I think there's a lot of other people that, there's sort of that saying of like, well, if he didn't say it, but if he did say it, he didn't mean it. And if he did mean it, he was only joking, right? And if he wasn't joking, then the then Biden said it, but worse, right? Then what about Biden, right? Like there's a cycle there's a cycle of rationalization that people who like need to continue to like it, even they can't face the idea that they can never question whether they actually like what they're seeing. Their rationalizations kick in as soon as the feeling of like, maybe I don't like this starts to well up. Like if you are in a conversation with one of those people, and as soon as you nudge them into a position where they're like, wait, do I have to like this? I don't like this. Okay, so what do I say? I say, oh, he's only joking. Oh, I say, oh, no, he didn't mean it. I say, oh, but what about Biden, right? Like I have all these defense mechanisms to prevent myself from actually sort of like even introspecting enough to know what I actually feel about it. Because that's dangerous. That's risky and dangerous, and it gives me bad feels. So I'm just going to go right to my defense.
Right.
So I think there's a lot more of those people. And like my mom's one of those people, right? Like, oh yeah. Well, I don't think he meant that. I don't think he was serious, right? Like because she just doesn't want to go there and actually wonder about whether whether it was really bad, the thing he did or said, because then that means something about her.
Yeah.
She would be admitting something about herself. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
This is kind of an exercise I do for myself. I admit to people openly that when I lived in New York City after college, I voted for Rudy Giuliani. He was the head of the Southern District of New York, federal prosecutors. He brought down the mob. He was he brought down all the junk bond traders.
He was a heroic figure at that time.
Yep. So I voted for him, and very quickly regretted it. Like he had this radio show where it was like before podcast, but it was a radio show and you could call, it was called like Call Mr. Mayor or something. So you could call in, and there was a guy that said, the one episode I listened to early on, the guy called in and goes, hey, you just passed a law that bans the breeding of ferrets. And that's my livelihood. I breed and sell ferrets as pets. And you've destroyed my livelihood. Could you reconsider, like what's wrong with ferrets? And he just went, like, he like, something snapped, and he just started screaming and spitting, like, you're a thick individual, you're thick. Like, and he started, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's not
well.
He's not well. And we just elected him mayor, what the hell happened? And then, 9/11 happened, and it was like, he became Mr. Mayor or whatever. Yeah. But I do remember then later on with the little, remember, landscaping, what was it? And then he gave
yeah.
And a little
Four Seasons
landscaping next to the dildo shop, and then he had like the little piece of dye.
Giuliani had a pretty spectacular like decline.
Oh yeah, it was amazing
as far as people declining goes. Yeah.
He, by the way, he announced his divorce. He was having an affair with one of his staffers, and his wife went and got a restraining order so that woman couldn't come to Gracie Mansion. And then he announced his divorce before he told his wife. He announced it at a press conference. Like that's how she found it. And people were like, wow, man, what a, I mean, that's so
low. Yeah.
It's just
what a gross
and back to your thing, like when you were saying that those guys like Hegseth and Trump and Giuliani, it's almost, like how our frontal lobe governs this sort of sense of self, reflection. We can self-reflect and feel shame. Like it's almost like they're missing.
They don't have that
part of that.
And they also, like, to your original question, they have enough people that just are adoring them no matter what. Like they are nobody. There's no reason why they would feel shame, because they can just ignore the shame, the voices that would be, that would want them to feel shame, and listen to the adoring crowds. There's enough big enough adoring crowds that they don't have to.
But this is weird, because Hegseth says, who spoke first? Hegseth and then
I think
Trump?
so, yeah.
Yeah. So Hegseth is saying, and the fat generals walking in the halls of the Pentagon, and he literally said, it's embarrassing, like putting these people are representing us on the world stage. But
then
if I was
guy
Trump,
comes out,
if I was Trump, I'd be like, fuck you, man. Like,
but he doesn't think he's fat, right? Like, so that's what I mean. Like, he has enough people that just tell him he's in great shape, and it's fucking like his own the physician, right? Ronnie Jackson or whatever, saying, "Oh, Trump weighs 225 pounds and he's 6'3" or whatever. Like, dude weighs 300 pounds. It's so obvious, right? Like, so you have people like that, and he could just delude himself into thinking, well, they're not talking about me, right? Like, he never even occurs to him that they would be talking, that he would be also considered fat.
But I honestly think, like, could you and I actually stand off on in the wings of the stage and hear that guy ranting about fat leaders, like embarrassing us, and not think like he does look in the mirror. I mean, come on, he takes a shower. He knows he's fat.
Yeah.
So you'd think that he would be like, dude.
I don't know that he knows he's fat, I guess, is my point. I really don't know. Like, the power of self-delusion is real, right? Like,
I could picture if it was me, if I was Donald Trump, after that whole event, I'd be like, dude, Hegseth, just
lay off the fat stuff.
Lay off the fat stuff, because I'm the leader of the free world and I'm fat. So
no, I don't think he thinks he's fat. I don't know. I question that. So I don't know. I mean, so something you said earlier makes me think of like, so I think it's Jonathan Haidt, an NYU professor, who has he does work on, I think it's called moral framework theory, and it's basically like how different people. So it was when you were talking about Giuliani and you regretting your vote, right? Like, you saw something and it made you regret your vote.
Yeah.
And so you didn't, for whatever reason, you didn't have this like sense of like, I need to be defensive about my vote. I need to be loyal to my vote. I need to stick to my guns here.
Yeah.
I can't flip flop on this. If somebody was mocking you for your vote, maybe you would have had a different reaction. Like, maybe you would have been like, fuck you, like, what about the guy you voted for or whatever? Like, who knows? Maybe there would have been a different, if somebody came at you for it, but probably not, right? Like, you would have been like, yeah, you're right. Like, I regret my vote. He's an idiot or whatever. Like, look at him. He's clearly off. So moral framework theory kind of just talks about the things that guide people's decision making. And so, for example, like, and these aren't the terms they used in moral framework theory, but they're kind of like underneath, I forget what the specific frameworks are, but like principles versus loyalty. You have a lot of in like fiction and storytelling, right? You have a lot of these dilemmas where what do you call it? The main character.
Protagonist.
Protagonist, yes. Where a protagonist faces this dilemma where they have to choose between personal loyalty and the big picture, or principles, right? Some principle, some truth, justice principle, right? And so that's a perfect example of moral framework theory. Like, it's like, and you can see it in Trump world all the time, this notion of loyalty. Like, there's no loyalty to any particular principle. Like, there's so much hypocrisy about almost every principle you can think of. And you go, like, how can these guys talk about free speech when they're doing blah, 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 right? Like, almost any principle you can think about that they espouse, they contradict it constantly. Family values, right? Like, Trump has been divorced how many times and cheated how many times, right? The party of family values, talk about family values. Law and order, right? They talk about law and order. They break the fucking law all the time, right? Like, there's so much hypocrisy, right? So clearly they don't care about those principles. There's a group loyalty that is the main glue of all of that. And that's what they judge each other on. So when somebody like gets kicked out of that fold, it's not because they violated some principle. Like when Bill Barr or any of these people who were super loyal to Trump at one point, like carrying water for him, doing all kinds of stuff for Trump and Trumpism, John Bolton, Bill Barr, all these guys, when they get kicked out of the fold, it's never for violating some principle. It's always for violating loyalty. Right? So that's moral. That's what moral, the moral framework theory is about. It's about just like, some people are guided by things like loyalty. Other people are guided by principles. We all balance those things to some extent. There's maybe all of us who may be guided by principles in some ways are going to choose loyalty in other contexts, right? So it makes me think of that. Like, you never felt like you needed to defend your vote for Giuliani. You were immediately ready to say, you know what, I kind of regret it.
Yeah, and I guess what's missing in my analogy is I never spoke to anyone else in my friend group or social graph
Yeah.
about being proud of having elected Giuliani. Like I wasn't. I just saw him
It
as
wasn't
like,
part of your identity. Yeah.
right. It wasn't part of
Yeah,
my
yeah.
identity, so it was easy to let go. And that's what
Yeah.
somehow this guy has made himself part of people's identity.
Oh yeah.
Deeply.
I mean, they wear the merchandise, right? So
Made in China.
yeah, yeah. But like I don't know, like it's not part of my mom's identity to that degree. She's not MAGA, but she's defensive nonetheless, right? Like her first impulse is to be defensive, and not to really examine any of the realities, right? Like, so she was very offended by people on the left who like painted a picture of Trump voters as this or that, right? Like that, she had a visceral reaction to people people on the left preaching about stuff, right? Like that hit her viscerally, and she made her so angry, and that felt like cruelty to her. So like if you pointed out like all the cruelty of Trump and MAGA, she would say, well, what about people on the left who like think Trump voters are racists or whatever? You know what I mean? Like that's equally cruel to her.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like the impulse is to defend, and it's and it's not because she loves Trump. It's like she doesn't. She's not the MAGA, but there still is like a defensiveness that I think a lot of people naturally it's a natural human impulse to be defensive and to like saying sorry, apologizing for things, and feeling regret is physically, and there's studies that show it causes physical and psychological pain.
Yeah.
Not physical, but psychological, like true psychological pain to admit you were wrong about something. So people do a lot to avoid psychological pain.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, remember last week we talked about the mindset shifting tricks? The one that I forgot to mention that I've always really enjoyed was there was Baba Muktananda, who was this head of the Siddha yoga lineage back in the 60s. They came to the kind of brought that ashrams and guru stuff to America during that period.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Play of Consciousness.
Okay.
And in it, he has this psychological, this framework, sort of almost like a creation framework that you are, and it's probably, was it Plato or Aristotle that had the shadows in the cave?
That was Plato. Yeah.
Plato. Okay, so I always think of, I always say like Aristotelian cave, but it's ocean.
Platonic. Yeah.
Platonic cave. That's a cool word. Anyway, so you go up on the stage, and he would say like, imagine that you are an actor on Broadway or something, and you have an agent, and you can like in between, like they'll be like, hey, everyone take 5, and you go back stage and you open your phone and you're like, I really don't like the director and I don't like the script. I mean, can you just get me off of this play and find me a different job, a different role, because none of this is working for me. Shut the fuck up, and you slam it down and you get back on the stage. And like in some ways, when you find yourself in that uncomfortable place,
Yeah.
I like to imagine that I can call my agent and complain and just be like, this was not, so I did not sign up for this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You told me it was something else. I was going to be the star and now I'm not. And like, I'm super pissed. Like, or even like you're like a football star who ends up on the bench and you're just like, get me the hell off this team,
Yeah.
So that, for me, that's just a fun exercise to do. And it speaks again to like writing a play about you as oneself as the
I like
hero,
that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about a shift that took place inside me that kind of is part of the reason for where I am right now, I think. And sort of like, because there's a shift away from like the stuckness into something new, which we've been talking about. But like there's the shift that got me into the stuckness that I was thinking about actually.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about, I saw this guy talking about, and I didn't even know what the trigger was for him. He was just talking about being awake, like how I feel like I have come awake. I'm woke. He didn't use that word, but he was just like, I feel like I'm awake I'm newly awake in this world. And he was like tearing up, and he was like, his voice was shaking, and he was like, and it's so hard. It's so hard. And everything feels different and new. And I'm looking at everything with fresh eyes, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. And he was just kind of going on about why it was hard and what it felt like to be awake. Mm-hmm. And so when I was at Salesforce, I was doing a lot of ayahuasca. Like almost every month, I was doing these ceremonies. And my dad died around that time. And I think between those two things, I feel like I woke up. I became newly awake in certain ways, like very real ways. And there is a thing at the end of each ayahuasca ceremony, like part of the experience for me of doing those ceremonies is, and I've used this language to describe it a number of times, I feel like I've come through a birth canal. Mm-hmm. And so on the other side of the ceremony, when I'm, kind of in the second morning after 2 nights of ayahuasca, and I feel like all of my armor that I was wearing has been stripped away. I feel like I have that wet baby skin, right? And I've never seen this world before, and I'm seeing it for the first time, and everything is new. It's kind of exactly what that guy was describing. Like everything looks different. Everything looks new. All the armor I was wearing is gone. I feel vulnerable to every sensory experience in a different way than I was before. And it's a wonderful, light, beautiful feeling, but it's also a scary, vulnerable feeling. And then you kind of reintegrate into the world, and there's after a week or two after each ceremony where it's like sort of you kind of being careful about yourself and what you're exposing yourself to and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, one of the effects of that was just being at Salesforce, just having this visceral, deep sense that this is insane. Like, what is this? What are we doing? What are we all doing? What are we doing? And it was partly that, like the work itself, and it was partly the world that it existed in. It all just felt like, what the fuck is any of this? Right? And so like every time I was in a meeting where I was supposed to act like the thing I was talking about was important, and it was just about like some software feature or whatever, or like, what if we changed this one little thing? Do you think we would convert more people through this funnel? Like, what who fucking cares? Like, I don't give a shit about any of this, and I can't pretend to. Like, how are you guys pretending that you care about this shit? Right? That's how I felt. And that's kind of how I still feel. Like, what is this world? What is this existence? Like, what are we doing? And so, like, when it comes to applying to work somewhere, that's what it feels like. What? Who cares? What? It just feels like this is all illusory bullshit that we have to kind of perform in this weird stage for a while, in this weird meat suit that we're wearing, in this weird capitalist hellscape. And it just feels like, what are we doing? So yeah. So that's, every time I feel like I'm re-engaging with something to like, I need to start doing something, there is this current of like, what is any of this? You know what I'm saying?
I totally, and when I don't know, a few years ago, I was shared with my psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. I'd asked her, because I always had therapists, but and I mentioned that I had gone through a similar thing because I did a 7-year stint at this corporation, and sat there for several years with what I called golden handcuffs that were getting, I was getting paid more and more and asked to do less and less. And it just was similarly, I had this sense of existential angst or a crisis, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, well, how old are you?" And I was like, I was 50, I'm 56. And she goes, "Oh, that's just called a midlife crisis."
Yeah,
men in particular go through this where they question everything and the purpose of life and why they, because you're headed into your second act, so you have to kind of, it's a really important, it's very chrysalis-like, right? It's very much like and so you have to squeeze through the little hole and all the fluid gets pushed out of your caterpillar body so you can fly,
Yeah.
But it's painful. I mean, it's certainly not, I don't think
But all the therapy, all the fixes in some way sort of feel like, let me help you get back to sleep.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, no.
Like, you woke up. You were supposed to wake up. Let me help you. Let me help you get back to sleep. Here, take this pill, or here.
Right.
Just do this. Do this exercise. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of that feeling to almost all of the fixes to it. Whenever I've talked to it, like a therapist about it, there's the directional kind of whatever it is. It sort of feels like, let me help you. Let me ease you back into sleep because you weren't supposed to wake up.
Well, it also, I think, threatens the reality system of your people in your social graph, like your family, your friends, because if you kind of stand up and say, "What the hell is this?" all of a sudden
100%.
they have to either decide like,
you can't be
Sean's
that
gone
guy.
crazy, or he's right.
You can't be that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, because it messes everyone else's
Yeah,
world
totally,
view.
100%. Like it messes with all your relationships and so it's that. Yeah, so it's a little bit. I'm not asking for a fix. I'm just sort of like I'm just saying that's an interesting. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that's there.
I haven't read much Carl Jung, but I'm embarrassed to say, like, I've watched a bunch of people talking about him on YouTube, and The Dark Night of the Soul, like this sort of place where you come to where you are faced with this kind of like everything is meaningless, and so what? Yeah, how do you And I remember, what's the guy's name the French journalist, author who, do you remember after World War II and, Auschwitz, when was revealed what happened, the New York Times had a headline that said, "God is dead." And that just this idea that like, if there was an omnipotent being, they left, they had to go feed their parking meter and they took off and never came back. Like they went to the store to get a pack of smokes and they just never came back. So, but like that was the thought. And so then I think as a global sort of philosophy, sort of those intellectuals went through this period where they tried to find meaning in this meaningless post.
Man's search for meaning, like that came out of that and all that.
Anyway, so I think that I mean, and clearly, like, as we approach what I have referred to as like a clear event horizon, like where a clash of, some, climactic event where, like, for instance, a really important current that brings, mineral rich water up to the oceans off of, whatever, fisheries collapse and, coral reefs die. And then and AI takes over. Like we're sort of faced with this kind of terrifying event horizon that's always in the future. And last time we talked a lot about the present moment. Like how do you, people say the past, you can't change anything in the past. So regretting things is a waste of energy.
Yeah, it only exists in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really don't know what's going to happen in the future. So
so that also only exists in your mind.
In your mind, yeah. And then the only thing is the present. But I do feel like we grew up in the Cold War, always sort of afraid of nuclear Armageddon. I mean, I certainly did. That was something that
it was on
about.
our minds. It was fed to us as a thing that we should be thinking about. Yeah,
and it was in
the air. It was in the air.
It felt like smart, well-educated, old white men were sitting around deciding,
like Dr. Strangelove style.
Yeah, it just seemed insane. Like it was insane that we were spending that much money and effort to make something where you only needed one and we'd all get cancer and die. So like, why make 2,000? Like it just seemed ridiculous. So, but we're at a point now where this generation, I look at my grandchild and I think they're probably looking at us, or at least as they become aware. I'm like, how the fuck could you guys just walk away from the climate crisis? Like how? How? Like why? The fact that you elected a guy who was like, yeah, you tear down the wind farms, like they call us, just feels like, it's like that kid with the joke with the New York University professor who said it's a kid playing a sim game. He's like 13 years old, and his mom yells up the stairs like, "Hey, the ravioli will be ready in 20 minutes," and he's just like, "How can I
Let me just end this shit?" Yeah.
Like I throw in a whole bunch of wild card shit that makes it just come to an end quickly, so we can.
Yeah, let me end this world because I got to go eat the spaghetti my mom
doesn't
made.
it? Doesn't it feel like that a little bit?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, no, it's truly insane. I mean, the U.S. has gone insane. So, I mean, it's interesting to see people in my life specifically abandon the climate as an issue. My brothers, for example, like I remember a conversation with my youngest brother who was a very, like he did like the outdoorsy stuff, Tom Brown's survival stuff and everything. He was like very, very far on the, like he was like, eco warrior level almost, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like, I thought that's sort of how I remember having some conversation with him probably 20 years ago now and mentioning something about global warming or whatever, climate change or something. And just as it wasn't even the main thing we were talking about, but it was kind of like, and I just had this assumption like, yeah, he cares about, right? And then he was just like, yeah, if that's even real. And I remember like, huh. Wow. And I remember registering that going, huh, like that's the first thing that he's ever said that sort of, anyway, it was just like, it struck me. And so, and I think it was right around that time that he was starting to consume a lot of, like different stuff online and stuff. Right. So sending him down some other rabbit hole, of the world. But yeah, that was all part of it. Like, I think there are moneyed interests that worked hard to get people to doubt climate change. And I think it's just another example of how our mainstream media didn't help at all, right? Like, it's like the New York Times' way of talking about that stuff. Like, their version of the discourse is like, scientists claim, other people claim, right? Like, they won't say this is true and this isn't true. It's like, well, they almost weigh them like equivalent claims. And that even recently, if you look at even recently, they'll frame things in terms of what scientists claim about climate change. And you wouldn't do that about flat Earth, right? Like, the number of people who think the Earth is flat is probably equivalent to the number of people who think climate change is a hoax, right? Like, but the New York Times wouldn't go, well, people claim the Earth is spherical. You know what I mean? Like, they would just squarely be on the side of like facts and truth and objective reality on that one. But for some reason with climate change, they frame it in this claim way, even now, even today.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
So like, that makes it easier for people to doubt this shit. And so I think there's a real failure across, at every level on that stuff. And it's sad. It's super sad.
We're at 108. Do you have a first world problem?
First world problem. Once again, I can't think of one. Yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
There's so many. Maybe I just have too many. Go ahead.
Mine, it was simply that I went to open. This is basically like I did this job right before I went on the trip, and I hired my wife and my friend. So I had this big check coming, and I needed to deposit it so I could pay them. And the people who wrote the check last time, they wrote it to Milo Studios because that's, they just thought that was my thing. Anyway, so I had to send it back, mail it back to them. They sent me one to Michael Longstaff, and I put it into my personal account. So this new check comes, and it's Milo Studios again. So I was like, okay, this is a perfect time to open a business bank account, right?
Yeah.
So I go in.
Yeah.
That process, like I go into my little credit union, and I used to have one there.
Do you have an LLC with like a tax ID? And
I
all
didn't do that. I did what's called a trademark. You can trade name. I have a trade name, and I had to register it with the Secretary of State, and they couldn't find it because they were looking at the corporate commission, and it just took like 3 hours. Like I don't know. When you go to buy a car, like it takes so long to get.
It takes so long. Like you could show up with a wad of cash. And it would still take 6 hours to buy a car.
It's weird how long it takes, right? Yeah. So anyway, this took a really long time, and then I went off to work at a coffee shop, and I get a call from the woman that I was working with, and she's like, "Oh, we need you to put like $100 into the checking account and $5 into the savings account to sort of activate it." So I was like, "I think I can just do that from my computer," and I go in, and it's not connected, like it won't. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I go all the way back to the bank. Yeah. And I go in, and basically what had happened is it's a user error. But I was getting an error when you log into the business account. You go to connect it to your personal account. Okay. It would say, "Oops, something went wrong. Couldn't do it." So I was just so annoyed. And
I think maybe that might be my first world problem. Just error messages that say, "Oops, something went wrong," and they don't give you any specifics. Sorry, go ahead.
So the truth was, I had connected it going one way. Yeah. And if I just used the drop downs, I could have transferred money back. Okay. But when I tried to add an account, instead of saying this account is already connected, it just said, "Oops, something went wrong with the database." Yeah. So I was like, could you guys? I mean, that is my fault, but could you guys just put in the sort of routine failure?
No, it's not your fault. Like the message should tell you what went wrong, not something went wrong. Oops.
Right. Especially if
that's like error message 101 from the earliest days of the internet, and it's I still run into way too many errors that are just oops, something went wrong, and then often you figure out like what went wrong, and it's like, oh, I did it twice or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's it's something that should be easily detectable. Yeah. It's lazy software development.
So my I always sort of, when that happens to me, I always think, oh, it's karma, because I used to run this website. We had 155 country affiliates around the world, and we had this super clunky old website that was like, I don't know, it might have been built on COBOL or something. It's really horrible. And the people would be like, why can't you just make it so when I search for my documents, they come up? And I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to explain. It's because there's like a whack-a-mole thing in the database, and someone tagged it wrong, and in order to change it, I need to put in this request, and then it gets rejected. And we really need to fire Oracle and like rebuild the whole system with basically,
but that's a year-long project or whatever. No, I've been there.
And like we and then you call Oracle, and Oracle's like, dude, we'll just why are you running it off of the server in a closet on site? Just use the cloud. And we go, because our like global IT guys won't think the cloud is dangerous, so like we can't use the cloud. They're like, well, that's why it doesn't work. Yeah. You know what I mean? So anyway, so I always sit there thinking, and it's no fun to like talk to the person who's in charge, and they're just like, can't help you, man. No. Just deal with it, So I said that to so many people. I feel like,
I mean, it's not really karma. It's the reality of how stuff gets built. But like, there are things that are hard, like, replacing all your underlying infrastructure. And there are things that are not that hard, like figuring out because you have to, if they didn't code that specifically for that error, if they didn't even consider that error case, you wouldn't have even gotten an oops screen. You would have gotten just a broken system. So they had to actually understand that error can happen, and create a path for that. So that's how errors work. So like that's just lazy software coding.
It's true, and honestly, I bet it's just as easy to check the database and say it's already connected. Yeah. So just say, error, can't add because you already it's already been added. Like you're already connected. I don't know, but you're right. That was my first world problem. Just like dealing with that. One. Yeah.
I'll give you a semi-related one. I just needed. So we wanted to give this kid. We were going to our friend's kid's 16th birthday, and we wanted to give him $50. and my wife had $100 bill, and I was going shopping, and she's like, "Hey, can you see if they can break this 100 and get like 250s or get a 50, at least 150 that's in nice newish shape, so we can give this kid a $50 bill." So I went to the Safeway because I was like, well, the Safeway has a Wells Fargo inside the Safeway. Mm-hmm. I don't have a Wells Fargo account, but I moved all my money out of Wells Fargo and moved it into a credit union some years ago because fuck the big banks, right?
Yeah.
And but I go there and I go to the Wells Fargo. I wait in line for a little while because it's always slow at the tellers. And I finally get to the teller, and I just want to change. I just want to break this 100. I want a 50, and it doesn't matter if maybe 250s, whatever. And she's like, "Oh, we can't do that unless you have a Wells Fargo account for $100 or more. We can't break a bill unless you have a." And I was really like, "You can't. It's cash, like, no, it's just our policy. We can't break 100." Yeah, so I had to, and then I went to the Safeway like cash, checkout line. I bought some stuff. I was like, "Oh, I'll pay with cash, and they can give me change, and they can maybe give me a 50." And then the same thing. It was like, "Oh, no, we can't take 100." It's like this is like kind of a ghetto Safeway. I don't want to use kind of non-PC language, but this Safeway is kind of a little sketchy. Anyway, so yeah, I had to go. I went to like 3 different banks, and I finally found a Chase bank, and I have a Chase credit card. So I was like, I'm ready to tell them I have a Chase credit card. But they didn't give me any trouble. But I had to wait in line a 3rd time.
Oh, that's good.
To break a $100 bill. So that's my first world problem.
It is strange that like I rarely carry cash, anymore. Like I just use my Apple Pay.
Yeah.
And but let's see. But it's funny I just recently took out a bunch of cash, and it's funny how there was a time in the 80s when we all used cash all the time, right? Like we paid for everything with cash, right?
Right.
Anyway, but nice, man.
All right, my brother.
All right, always good to talk to you. Have
Likewise.
a great day. Great rest of your day. All right, bye-bye.
Satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.